Big-time Sunday showdown in the Big East. The hottest team in the conference, the Marquette Golden Eagles, taking on the 20th ranked Xavier Musketeers. Welcome inside Fiserv Forum, where the students are back. Matt Schumacher and the great Nick Baugh with you. And Nick, this Marquette team, who's won 5 in a row, has taken down 3 top 25 teams in the last week, including most recently 11th ranked Villanova.
Well, Matt, not all road wins are created equal. Winning at Nova is a monster road win, and this team is playing with a ton of confidence right now. You see Justin Lewis with the game-winning 3. This group, the belief factor, I think, is just continuing to skyrocket each game. The way they're sharing the ball, shooting the ball, playing defense with that Shaka Smart energy. It's really, really fun to watch Marquette right now. You said it, one of the hottest teams, not only in the Big East, but in the country.
And their second-year star, Justin Lewis, phenomenal against Villanova. He scored the last 7 points for the Golden Eagles, including that game-winning 3 you just saw. And there are the numbers you talked about, Nick. 54 made threes in the last 5 games for Marquette.
Yeah, just a clean sweep, checking all the boxes you want from a team that is playing great basketball. And I think all those things right there that you're looking at is feeding into the belief factor for Shaka Smart in his first year in Milwaukee. Those numbers are outstanding, though.
And on the flip side, Xavier's won back-to-back games. Jack Nungy, though, the hero down the stretch against DePaul in a 1-point win.
Really took over late when Xavier was big time against the ropes in Wintrust Arena against DePaul. Knocked down a couple of threes. He's a guy that is incredibly versatile as well. Can step out, can face up, can post up. Nungy's playing great basketball for the Musketeers as well.
Big time rematch from a thriller in December. Tip-off coming your way next from Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome back to downtown Milwaukee as we get set for a Super Sunday showdown between the hottest team in the conference, the Marquette Golden Eagles, and the 20th ranked Xavier Musketeers. A packed house in Milwaukee for this one. Matt Schumacher, Nick Baugh with you. And Nick, we talked a little bit about Xavier's Jack Nungy. How about their 5th-year senior Paul Scruggs? He came back this year to do exactly what he has done, and that is lead a top 25 team.
Yeah, he's an extension of Travis Steele on the floor, and so he needs to calm his group down on the road inside Fiserv Forum. But most importantly, he's got to take care of the basketball, Matt, with how Marquette will pressure, change defenses, look to get after you. Paul Scruggs needs a good game in terms of taking care of the rock for the X-Men.
And on the other side, Daryl Morcell, who was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year last year, he came to Marquette to do exactly this, and that is be more of a featured player in the offense.
It's amazing how he was a capable scorer at Maryland, but ever since he's gotten to Milwaukee and under the guidance of Shaka Smart, he's really spread his wings as a scorer, playing with a lot of confidence. See the field goal percentage, 51% from the floor, doing a good job taking the right shots, but it's been fun to watch him expand his offensive game to being a better scorer.
Now let's take a look at the starting lineup, sponsored by Jeep. Jeep, there's only one. For the Xavier Musketeers, you know Paul Scruggs runs the show. Zach Fremantle, we weren't sure what his status would be, Nick, coming into this game, dealing with a bit of a stomach bug. He looks like he is ready to go. And it's been the same starting 5 for Shaka Smart during this 5-game win streak.
Love that you've seen the implementation of Prosper into the starting lineup over the last handful of weeks. I think that's really served him well and the team well.
Officials Mike Roberts, Lamar Simpson, Wally Ratecki. Marquette in the yellow, Xavier in the road dark uniforms, and away we go from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And right away, Justin Lewis to the cup, and it rims out. Rebound, Jerome Hunter.
Shaka Smart loves to get sets to get Justin Lewis going downhill early in games. Good look, just didn't get it to go down.
Where Xavier won the first meeting between these two teams. 80-71. Started a bit of a slide to start conference play for Marquette. Shaka Smart's team started 0-3. They've since won 5 consecutive Big East games for the first time since the 2017-18 season, Nick. And Shaka told us he's a big proponent of the spirit of the team. Feels like his guys are totally bought into each other right now.
And I honestly think that's the biggest difference in this team right now. The confidence they have, how tight-knit and together they are, has really unlocked their ability to share the ball and shoot the ball.
Late in the clock, and a shot clock violation. Well defended that time by the Xavier Musketeers, who have played just 5 games in the last 3 weeks. They had the Christmas break, then they had a 17-day COVID hiatus without playing a game, and they, Nick, are still trying to get the rhythm back a little bit like they had in the early parts of the season.
Yeah, it takes time to find that game rhythm, that game flow, get everybody back on the same page, clicking on all cylinders. You know it'll come eventually for the X-Men.
Good shot rejection there from Colby Jones. And now Jones on the baseline. Kick out to Nate Johnson. And a foul on the rebound attempt gives it right back to Marquette as we take a look at Nick Ba's keys to the game.
Well, you look at this game. Let's start with Xavier. Turnovers. Got to handle the basketball. Marquette second in the Big East in steals. Thought it was interesting. Travis Steele said we want to make Kolek a scorer, not a passer. And then for Marquette, you got to rebound the basketball. Marquette not very good in that area. It's an area of strength for the Xavier Musketeers. And then that team assist number has been outstanding. 21 team assists over this 5-game winning streak. 21 assists a game. Got to continue to share the sugar. To give a shout out to my man Steve Lapp.
Well, Coach Lapp says he feels like this Marquette team is a legitimate Elite 8 contender. How about that rejection from Nate Johnson, sending it into the second row of the seats?
Well, Matt, you've seen twice now Xavier doing an excellent job being there on the catch to defend the three-point shot. Did it on Justin Lewis, did it there. Good awareness from Xavier.
Zip pass down to Kirkweth, and finally the first points of the game come down for Marquette 2 minutes in.
Just good patience at the end of the clock. Most players panic, try to get up a shot. A nice pass down low, though, for the 2 points.
Fremantle off the mark, tipped around and awarded back to the Musketeers. We talked about it a little bit in the open, Nick, but this Marquette team, rather, the hottest team in the league. They've won 5 straight games, 3 over top 25 opponents, taking down a Villanova team who hadn't lost at home since 2018. What has impressed you most about the way Shaka Smart's team has played in the last couple of weeks?
Honestly, Matt, I think it's all the intangible things. It's the confidence and how it's grown. It's the togetherness and how it's grown. I mean, there's a level of buy-in that you just feel when you watch Marquette play, and that's really important in basketball.
And that man right there has hit a bunch of threes in the last 5 games. Has had multiple threes in the last 3. And it's a 5-0 lead for Marquette. That is quickly stopped by Xavier at triple.
Well, the one thing Xavier's going to have to do, Matt, is when you break the three-quarter court pressure, try to be aggressive to score out of it. Well, you see, this is where Kolek's dangerous, getting a piece of the paint, spraying it out. It's how Marquette's been scoring. Kolek making plays, finding shooters on the arc, and Marcel knocks it down.
And a turnover. Marcel tracking it down. He gets it back for the Golden Eagles. And now numbers the other way for Kolek. And now here comes the 5th-year senior Paul Scruggs, making his 101st career start in a Xavier uniform this afternoon.
Gotta try to get Zach Fremantle going a little bit if you're Xavier.
Nice baseline jumper from Jack Nunge. Had 23 against DePaul, including the game's final 6 points for Xavier. Bit of a shaky start shooting-wise for both teams.
And both teams juiced up, locked in, and whenever you play that, it's that time of year we start playing teams for the second time around, so you're really locked in and understanding scatter report of what each team and individual can do.
Lewis knocks down the open triple. He scored in double figures in 17 of 19 games this year, partner.
He can do it in so many different ways, and that's the thing about him that makes him so difficult as a matchup defensively, is how he can score at all 3 levels. And Marquette will play fast, and they'll hunt threes early in possessions.
They've hit 54 triples in the 5 games preceding this one, already 2 this afternoon. Morcell tries another. And the rebound, Zach Freemantle. And you said you really want to see Zach Freemantle get going a little bit. Those sentiments were echoed by head coach Travis Steele.
The one thing Travis Steele said is that he thinks eventually the offense will come, but nevertheless it does need to come. Talking about a guy that averaged 16 points a game last year and was an all Big East player, only averaging 8 a game, still trying to work that rust off coming off the foot surgery and missing the first 6 games of the season.
Jones rims it out, tipped back to Freemantle, right place, right time, and the second opportunity pays off for the Musketeers.
Well, the more Xavier can play Nunge and Freemantle together, the better. And they're 2 of your 5 best players. Got to find a way to make sure to get them on the floor enough together.
Freemantle spinning, and the baby hook goes on the baseline. Back-to-back buckets for the former Big East most improved player.
Talented guy in his own right. If Freemantle can get rolling to the Zach Freemantle that everyone expects him to be, this Xavier team is big-time dangerous.
In and out from Prosper. He's missed 2 from that corner. Musketeers 3-2 in their last 5 games. Both losses coming to a top 15 Villanova team. And this is a quad 1 win opportunity for both clubs this afternoon. Out of bounds, last touched by the Musketeers.
Well, Justin Lewis picking up where he left off, running the floor, spacing the floor, and you know Kolek will find him knocking it down. And Mr. Freemantle trying to free up his offensive game, getting the offensive rebound putback.
FS1 College Hoops, sponsored by Jeep. Jeep, there's only one. Love these big-time Big East showdowns. Xavier and Marquette has been no different, Nick. 5 of the last 7 meetings have been decided by an average of just 5.5 points. Xavier's won 2 of the last 3. Marquette, though, has won 5 of the last 7. And I thought one of the interesting things in our conversation with Travis Steele, he talked about the slow starts being an issue over the last 3 games. These next 4 minutes are vital for the Musketeers, rather.
Yeah, Travis Steele said it's not necessarily the starts of the game in terms of the first 4 minutes. He said it's the next 4 minutes. Calls them wars. That's what Travis Steele and Xavier characterizes the 4-minute segments of war. He said for whatever reason they have not done well in the second wars of these games. So certainly something to keep an eye on in terms of lineups and how Xavier's executing on the floor here over the course of the next couple of minutes.
They were outscored in their 1-point win over DePaul in the second war, 17-10. How about that move from Cam Jones, the freshman, kissing it off the glass.
Well, Cam Jones is a guy who plays with a ton of confidence, coming in right off the bench. Forget swinging it and get into a flow. Let's just drive it straight to the cup and get it rolling.
And Kunkel off the bench on the other end knocks down his first shot of the game.
It's interesting, you got 2 guys off the bench, and Kunkel for Xavier and Elliott for Marquette. Very similar players, and their threes and offense can really change the complexion of a game.
Kunkel's been averaging nearly 11 points per game over the last 8. Travis Steele says he loves these big road games. Bigger the moment, the looser he plays. Double team on Nunge. He's stuck, and it results in a turnover from Marquette.
The double team came off Dewan Odom. Odom a non-shooter, so Marquette electing to send 2 off of Odom.
Kunkel. Neither team shooting particularly well from the floor to start. Marquette 4 of 14. Xavier 5 of 13. And another near miss for the Marquette Golden Eagles.
That's exactly what Travis Steele wants. Wants to make Kolek a scorer and not a passer. So off a Kolek penetration, look for Marquette to have a hard time getting kick-out threes.
Cam Cam Jones a triple. He's 50% from downtown in the last 5 games, and a timeout taken by Xavier.
Well, how about the young fella coming in with the foot on the gas on this Sunday afternoon? A drive to the basket. How about a walk-up 3? The lefty stroking it from distance.
Slight edge for the Marquette Golden Eagles through the first 8 minutes against another top 20 opponent in the Xavier Musketeers. Marquette has had a magical run over the last couple of weeks. 3 wins over top 25 teams. And Nick, I think one of the biggest surprises, Marquette has more quad 1 wins than anybody in the Big East with 5.
That is surprising. But when you think about Marquette, there isn't a hotter team in the Big East right now than the Golden Eagles. And so often your season can kind of hinge on a play here and a play there. You think about the 3-pointer Alex O'Connell made basically at the end of the first overtime to send it into a second overtime, and Creighton ends up winning and beating Marquette on this court. And then you think about what's happened in the other 2 close games. Seton Hall find a way to win. Villanova find a way to win. Sometimes your season is more delicate than you think, and Marquette has been on the right side of the close games, and the confidence has exploded.
Back-to-back wins over top 20 opponents in Seton Hall and Villanova by 3 points or less, as Kunkel buries a triple, and Kunkel making an impact off the bench. He gives Xavier a 1-point lead.
And give Dwan Odom the hockey assist, doing a good job of living in the paint and kicking it out, and that created the extra pass situation. So watch Odom as he punches that gap, and then that creates the scramble, and Kunkel's able to knock it down. Playing off of Dwan Odom, Matt, they're really trying to use his man to help and plug up the lane, so Odom cannot take the bait, settle for jump shots. He has to continue to get into the lane and make plays for his teammates. He played great in the first game against Marquette. Needs to keep it going here this afternoon.
Had a team high and a season high. 19 points in just 21 minutes against Marquette. Travis Steele said we really want to see him get back into the paint today. Here he is again. Just rims out with a floater, and the defensive board by Justin Lewis.
Like that mindset, though, from Odom.
Morcell up against Nate Johnson. Morcell, no, and tipped into the hands of Odom. And an awkward fall. Odom thought he was tripped up. Instead, it's a travel. And that is the 6th turnover of the half already for Xavier. Kind of a reverse of what we saw in the first game back in December. It was Xavier who scored 13 points off of 12 Marquette turnovers.
It's always hard, though, Matt, on the road against teams that pressure like Marquette does. That pressure is a little more pronounced when the team's on their home floor. Marquette is second in the Big East in steals, and they're really, really dangerous in that regard when they're at home.
And a turnover gives it right back to Xavier. You know, it's interesting you bring up sort of that defensive synergy that this Marquette team has had. That was the thing that Jay Wright said after the win over Villanova that impressed him the most, was just how they stay connected through the entirety of each possession.
Yeah, really, really connected group on that end of the floor. Morcell's a good individual defender. Queth, really good rim protector. Justin Lewis is strong. Got a lot of good pieces defensively.
5 to shoot. Fremantle tangled up by Iguodaro, and he is whistled for the hold. And we knew coming in, listen, Shaka Smart made a name for himself in coaching with his defensive intensity, the havoc style that he made famous at Virginia Commonwealth. We're starting to see that become a reality for Marquette this year.
No doubt about it.
Here's Morcell giving it up to Lewis, and a chance at a 3-point play. What a take for the second-year superstar Justin Lewis.
Marquette's got a lot out of kicking it ahead in transition and either having open threes or, in Lewis's case, a shot fake and a drive at the basket. I don't think Xavier's urgency has been good enough in transition to get sorted out. And Lewis is a guy that'll make you pay. Just such a versatile, big, strong athlete at 6'7", 235.
First trip to the free throw line this afternoon for either team. Lewis off the mark. Ticked into the hands of Kirkwath, and the second opportunity gets jammed down, and it's a three-point lead for Marquette.
You probably chalk that up, though, as a deflection. Something that Shaka Smart charts, get a hand on the ball, pops it free, quick, collects it and dunks it.
Hunter off the mark, and another defensive rebound secured by Justin Lewis, who's top 10 not only in scoring, but rebounding, field goal percentage, and free throw percentage as well. Morcell, hesitation, and he rolls it off the window with the left hand, and now the largest lead of the half for Marquette at 5.
You said it, that hesitation froze the help defender to retreat back to the roll man, which opened up the lane to the rim. Pretty good offensive stuff from the Golden Eagles.
And now a 2.5-minute scoring drought and counting for the Musketeers. Fremantle left it short. Rebound, Stevie Mitchell.
I'd like to see Fremantle get his back to the basket, get a little closer to the rim.
Xavier 6 of 18 from the field, and a blocking foul called against Greg Elliott. It'll stay with the Musketeers.
Just didn't quite get there in time to set his feet on Zach Fremantle. Good slip from Zach Fremantle, a pass from Odom, but Greg Elliott, that's close. Those calls are such bang-bang calls, but it's a good job by Elliott. Good team defensive awareness to make everything difficult and go help as Fremantle was rolling.
Only 2 personal fouls on the Marquette Golden Eagles in this half. That was a major storyline in the first game. They had 4 players with 4 or more fouls by the end of it, and they were outshot by the Musketeers by 23 from the free throw line.
Now for Xavier, no Nunji, no Fremantle on the floor at the 4 and the 5. So your frontline scoring takes a hit with this lineup on the floor. Probably going to have to be perimeter oriented if you're the X-Men.
Deontay Miles into the ball game, and a turnover off the Golden Eagles. That is their 5th. Who do you go to offensively now, Nick, with this different rotation in the lineup?
Well, usually you go Paul Scruggs, especially with him playing off the ball with Odom on the floor. You can run different sets for him to drive, just like this. And that's one of the things that's good, Matt, is when Odom's on the floor with Scruggs, it allows Scruggs to just think about scoring and attacking instead of running the point.
And that ends a 3+ minute scoring drought. Paul Scruggs getting a timely basket. Good feed from Stevie Mitchell. Scruggs whistled for the foul. Morcell will get free throws when we come back.
Well, Paul Scruggs, he's right-handed, but he loves driving with his left hand. Look at a clear out from Deontay Miles, and Scruggs gets it to go off the window. Trying to hang in there in Milwaukee.
Saturday, the Indiana Hoosiers, fresh off a win over a top 5 Purdue team, take on Maryland in Big Ten action. Then it's a classic Big East showdown between St. John's and the 11th ranked Villanova Wildcats. College hoops tips off at 2 Eastern, continuing at 4:30 on Fox and the Fox Sports app. As we welcome you back inside Fiserv Forum, Matt Schumacher, Nick Baugh with you. 3-point lead for Marquette. Darryl Morcell headed to the free throw line after this last foul.
Good cut from Morcell. That's something this team does a nice job of. Spacing the floor, moving with excellent purpose. There's a good basket cut from Darryl Morcell. And it's been an interesting game so far. Both teams not really clicking on all cylinders. And Zach Fremantle saddled with 2 personal fouls for the Xavier Musketeers. So a lot of pressure now on a guy like Jack Nunji when he re-enters the game. to make sure that he's putting his fingerprints on this thing and holding it down for the front line for the X-Men.
To what do you attribute a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a rock fight start, because it certainly hasn't been that, but we haven't seen the flow offensively that maybe we've been accustomed to with seeing these two teams?
Honestly, I think it's that time when you start playing teams for the second time. That's the beauty of the Big East. It's a true round robin. You're playing everybody twice, home and road. These teams saw each other a month ago in mid-December. And so the scatter report, understanding pet plays, understanding personnel, all those things lead to a difficult time to have a free-flowing game offensively.
No secrets come this time in Big East play.
No, not at all.
Scruggs doubled, and Justin Lewis tagged with a reach-in foul. That is his first personal and just the team's third. Xavier, though, Nick, has only made one of their last 6 field goal attempts. That was a drive to the bucket by Paul Scruggs.
It's an interesting lineup on the floor, though, because of that foul trouble. You got basically Colby Jones at the 4 spot right now.
And Deontay Miles playing the 5, defended by Kurt Quett. Shot clock winding down again. Odom on the drive. He was stripped, and it went off Odom and back to Marquette.
Another deflection for Marquette, doing a good job being active with the hands. Dwan Odom, understand he's not a three-point shooter, but you're there on the catch. Nice job by Stevie Mitchell getting a hand on the rock.
Knocked out of bounds, last touch by Xavier. An 8-2 run for Marquette, and now Jack Nunge checks back in.
Now the floor really gets spread now for Xavier. Outside of Odom, you got 4 capable perimeter players. So the defensive assignments alter a lot for Marquette now with this lineup.
Kolek to Lewis. Lewis knocks it down from straight away with a hand in his face. 8-point lead for Marquette.
Another assist for Kolek, and what makes that hard, Matt, is a screen really isn't set. Kind of slips out of it, so there's a moment of indecision on how you're handling it. Lewis does a nice job of that, knocking it down. 4 assists
now for Kolek, and promptly responded by Colby Jones, who's played really good basketball since the COVID hiatus for Xavier. Back-to-back games in double figures for Jones. Now he's defending Lewis.
Good double team from Nate Johnson. Go get it out of the hands of Justin Lewis, make someone else beat you.
Jones again with the left hand, and it rimmed out.
Oh, man, it seems like Xavier's missed about 3 or 4 point-blank layups in this first half.
Morcell. And a good rebound there from Scruggs. I agree. They've had some really good looks at the basket, just couldn't quite finish. How about that tough finish, though, for Scruggs, coast to coast.
Scruggs is so strong. Again, a guy that can finish with both hands around the rim. And he's got long arms, so he can extend it away from the shot blocker while also taking it to the chest of the shot blocker.
Stevie Mitchell, great backdoor cut and the feed from Kurt Quett. And that's one of the strengths of this Marquette team, the passing of their bigs in the low post.
No doubt. And oftentimes passing is only as good as the movement around the passer. Got shooters spacing the floor and a good basket cut.
Nunge tries a 3. And now Xavier just 2 of 10 from distance to start the ball game. Lewis, bang! Lewis again from the right side. Justin Lewis in double figures with 11. And it's a 9-point Marquette lead, the largest of the first half.
Poised with execution now on the road if you're Xavier.
Johnson a step back. And the shots just not falling in this first half for Xavier. They're now 9 of 25 from the floor. danger zone perhaps for the Musketeers. Queff had it poked away. Now Kolek with 5, and it's picked off by Scruggs. Up ahead to Johnson, finishing through contact, and a much-needed dunk at the rim for the Musketeers.
That's where Xavier needs to get out and run a little bit. Has had a hard time scoring when Marquette's gotten their half-court defense set. Trying getting out on the open floor would be a good way to remedy some of the offensive woes for the X-Men.
They had 18 points in transition in the win against Marquette back in December, doing exactly what you're talking about, running the floor a little bit more.
So even here, push, kick it ahead, be aggressive early in the possession.
Jones backing down Lewis. The double comes. Now Odom rejected by Kerqueff. The leading shot blocker in the Big East stepping out and altering another jump shot, and a timeout taken by Shaka Smart.
Well, Marquette's had their foot on the gas, but Xavier for once gets their foot on the gas in the open floor. Nate Johnson, known as a three-point specialist, but he's a dunk specialist right now. Marquette up 7.
Packed house at Fiserv Forum for this Sunday showdown, a rematch of the December 18th game between Marquette and Xavier in the Cintas Center in Cincinnati. It was a tight game really all the way down the stretch. Marquette had it to within 1 with 2.5 minutes left, but then a 10-2 run by the Musketeers. Nick, ultimately too much for Marquette to overcome, and the Musketeers picking up a big win at home against the Golden Eagles.
Certainly was one of those games where Xavier was on the ropes a little bit early in the first half, but mixed in some 2-3 zone, and Dwan Odom came in and changed the game with his energy and penetration into the paint. Doing a good job making plays for his teammates. You see the numbers. Certainly didn't shoot it great from 3 to the Musketeers, but when you attempt 35 free throws, you're usually dictating and controlling a lot of the paint.
Dwan Odom, a season high and a team high 19 points in that win. But you talk about the 35 free throw attempts. Xavier was plus 23 in terms of free throw attempts in that game. They've yet to take a single free throw in this first half today. And there is a foul on Kunkel. Neither team even close to getting into the bonus, so it'll stay here with Marquette and a fresh 20 on the shot clock.
Elliott has had quite the surge the last couple of weeks, shooting the ball, making big plays for his team. Been a little quiet here in the first half. Need to find a way to get him rolling. It's interesting, Travis Steele, we asked him what concerns him. One of the first names he threw out was Greg Elliott.
Well, he's averaged 14 points per game over the last 4, and he shot it over 60% from beyond the arc as Prosper is on the board for the first time this afternoon.
How about Kunkel and Nate Johnson at the floor at the same time for the Musketeers?
Really good effort there from Johnson to keep the ball in play. Kunkel gets it back, and he rattles in a triple. And now Kunkel has 8 points with 2 threes.
Well, you get the sense Travis Steele is trying to get his best shooters on the floor, regardless of who it is. You get Kunkel and Nate Johnson on the floor, spread it out, let those guys hunt long-range jumpers.
Lewis on the drive, and he draws a foul.
But again, Matt, with Zach Fremantle on the bench with 2 personal fouls, having to play small. And right now, Xavier's playing small with their shooters. You got Kunkel on the floor with Nate Johnson. Good job by Odom getting a piece of the paint and kicking it out to a guy that I think is really important. One of Kunkel and Nate Johnson, one of those 2 guys has to knock down threes for Xavier to reach its potential.
And Nate Johnson has been uncharacteristically quiet over the last couple of games. He was 0 for 5 from 3 against DePaul. And he scored just 5 points in the last 2 games combined coming in to this game with Marquette.
And Nate Johnson's guy, he was 4th nationally in 3-point percentage last year. And this guy was big time from beyond the arc. And You know about the front line of Nunge and Fremantle. You know Scruggs can get in the lane. You know Kobe Jones get in the lane. You need to balance that with the three-point shooting of Kunkel and Johnson. So it's really important for those two guys to put their fingerprint on the game.
Johnson had 4 threes in the win over Marquette back in December. Now Kunkel on the drive and the cradle, and he rolls it in. And Kunkel leads all Xavier scorers with 10.
Floor gets spread, playing small, able to punch a lane and finish it.
1 minute to play in the first half and a 6-point lead for Marquette. Prosper defended by Johnson. And I believe Nunge might have gotten a piece of that one. A tie up on the floor. How about the help side D from Jack Nunge?
That's big time. And I always tell people Nunge's one of those guys you need to see live in person to really get a sense of how big he is. He is long, he is tall, and look at the timing. Comes off of Oso Ighodaro in the perfect spot and blocks the shot from Prosper. It's a big-time defensive play from Nunge.
Travis Steele says he is a big reason why this team is top 35 in 2-point defense this year. Now an opportunity perhaps to get a 2-for-1, and there is Odom popping in the lane.
Well, I'd like this lineup. The floor's gotten spread. More opportunities to drive it. See Kunkel get to the lane, get one to go down, and then Odom does the same.
Marquette can really run this thing down to less than a second to play in the first half. And for all intents and purposes, get the final possession of the first 20 minutes. Cam Jones, the freshman. Jones, tough left-handed shot, won't go. Kunkel, three-quarter court, left it short. But a good push from Xavier. At the end of the first half, they trail by 4. Coming up on the Jeep Halftime Report, Mike Hill, Steve Lavin break down yesterday's Seton Hall St. John's game, and we'll preview Monday's rematch. Marquette leads at the break. They've been awfully good this year when taking a halftime lead into the locker room. 10-0 so far this season. They lead the 20th ranked Musketeers 33-29 in Milwaukee. A 4-point lead for the Marquette Golden Eagles. They're 10-0 this year when leading at the halftime break. As we take a look at the first half highlights, Nick, not a whole lot separating these two teams for the first 20 minutes.
No, pretty evenly played half, although Xavier finished the half on a nice little surge after getting down 9. And Paul Scruggs had to really come in and do his thing, driving the ball to the basket. But it was Kunkel in the bench that I thought was the difference than allowing Xavier to hang in there. Kunkel had 10 points. Then Justin Lewis doing what he does best. And he was all over the place in the first half, scoring. And then Kolik finding Morcell on a kick-out 3. 5 made threes in the first half from the Marquette Golden Eagles. Pretty good first half, all things considered.
Today's stat comparison sponsored by Jeep. There's only one as we take a look at the first half stats. Interesting to note the bench points, as you talked about. Xavier doubling up Marquette in that category thanks in large part to Adam Kunkel. And you talked about Nate Johnson or Adam Kunkel really needing to get going for Xavier to be at their best offensively. Certainly Kunkel was very good in that first 20.
No doubt about it. And again, with a quiet half from Fremantle with 2 personal fouls, Nunge only had 2 points. You needed to get offense from somewhere, and it was that guy, Adam Kunkel, that came in and really did a lot of good things, attacking the basket. I thought Xavier going with their smaller lineup, spreading the floor, really paid off well. See if Travis Steele wants to go back to that, but now you got Fremantle coming back into the fold. And of course, this is just, you can pencil it in for Justin Lewis at this point, right? You know what that cat's going to give you every single night. He's almost at his average of 15 points per game.
He's now had 18 games of double figures in the last 20 played.
Consistency.
Yes, the epitome of it. And you know, it's interesting. Shaka Smart said about 2 weeks ago those two sat down and they plotted out 6-month increments of Justin Lewis's life from the time he got to campus as a freshman until now. And Shaka said the most impressive thing about Lewis, the growth he's had over the last 6 months, implementing daily the coaching that he gets from this staff.
Yeah, and That's a huge part of buying into some sort of a coaching change, and it seems like Justin Lewis has done that. And when your best player does that, Matt, that sets the tone for everybody.
And everybody on this Marquette team knows he's the best player. At the end of that Villanova game, Shaka Smart said every player in the huddle pointed to Justin Lewis. They wanted him to take the last shot.
And that's what's interesting when you contrast it with Xavier. They're a more balanced attack. They got a lot of different guys that could hurt you late in the game in a big spot.
A foul on the drive by Kobe Jones as we revisit Nick Ba's keys to the game.
Well, for the most part, Xavier had a lot of turnovers early, tightened it up. Kolek just still able to do what he's doing, distributing the ball. A lot of those were in transition. Marquette hanging in there in the glass, and then Marquette continuing to share the rock, which is good to see. Again, already halfway to what they've averaged over their 5-game winning streak, averaging 21 assists per game.
And these, the first free throws of the game for Xavier. They had 35 free throw attempts in the first meeting, a game in which they won 80-71 back on December the 18th at home against this Marquette team. And Kobe Jones calmly knocks down them both. Xavier has to feel pretty good coming out of the halftime break. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and yet they only trailed by 4.
And got down 9 at 29-20, and it kind of felt like Xavier was on the ropes. Pretty amazing to battle back here to have it be just a 2-point deficit.
Five on the timer. Kolek driving against Fremantle, who had to back off a little bit with those 2 personals.
That's what Xavier wants to do, make Kolek a scorer, but a good job in Kolek recognizing that Fremantle doesn't want to foul and attacking it.
And the other way, a hello, how do you do jam from Jerome Hunter, the Indiana transfer.
Big time finish, and see if Hunter can do a good job defensively here. Need his versatility on the defensive end of the floor.
Gives it up to Jones with a 2-hand slam. Back-to-back dunks for the Musketeers. We're tied at 35, and a timeout taken by Shaka Smart.
It's a dunk fest right now for the Musketeers inside Fiserv Forum, doing an excellent job attacking the basket. Jerome Hunter, the Indiana transfer, in traffic throwing it down. And then get out in the open floor, Kobe Jones, the sophomore. Shaka Smart, call it timeout.
10-2 Musketeer run has tied it up at 35. Still a lot of time to play. Just coming out of the halftime break, and during the halftime break, the Marquette Golden Eagles honoring a number of members, including Dominic James, to the Hall of Fame, who, if you remember, was the 2006 Big East Rookie of the Year. And then, of course, Tom Crean. Who could forget his legendary coaching run between 1999 and 2008, leading the Golden Eagles to the 03 Final Four with Dwayne Wade. And a really cool reunion of some epic teams. You see the banners hanging there, Nick. And that's what Shaka Smart wants to bring Marquette back to, that kind of golden era getting to the NCAA tournament.
No doubt about it. And that 2003 team was really fun to watch. And certainly it was headlined and led by Dwayne Wade. But how about my man Travis Diener, too? My man Travis Diener, I wore 34 in college, and a part of the reason I chose number 34 was because of Travis Diener. I just love the way he played. But certainly Tom Crean did an excellent job here in Milwaukee. Really cool to see him get on.
Tyler Kolek ends the 10-2 run with his first 3 of the ball game. And it's back to a 3-point lead for Marquette.
Yeah, Kolek's a guy that he's a capable shooter. He shot it well last year at George Mason. He just has not gotten it going yet this season. Been more of a distributor, but you know he's more than capable. He shot 35% from 3 a year ago and made 51 threes, so it's a pretty large sample size. Just trying to get that confidence roll.
Adjusting to a new role, of course, this year under head coach Shaka Smart. He has 6 or more assists in 11 straight games, when last year his season high was 4 assists.
That's hard to believe. It's one of those ones I feel like I had to fact check and go, no way. Because you watch him play, that cat right there has got elite feel and vision, especially in the pick and roll. Those little left-hand scoop hook passes he throws out of the pick and roll are really, really special. And his passing's been unlocked in this Shaka Smart Marquette offense.
Kolek, another one, that time off the back iron. I think part of it, too, for him, Nick, he was asked to be the premier scorer for George Mason last year, the A-10 Rookie of the Year, and they'll count the basket for Colby Jones, who's headed back to the free throw line. And Jones quietly putting together a very nice afternoon in Milwaukee.
That he is. And one of the things about Colby Jones is he's strong and he plays bigger than he is. Probably the best rebounder on this Xavier roster and does a good job attacking the basket. He's a guy that's a more than capable scorer, but he thinks about the other things on the floor. Rebounding, hustling, talking on defense. But you're seeing a little bit of what he can do offensively here in the last couple of minutes.
Gives Xavier a 2-point lead. He now has 9 points. And a whistle. Foul will go against the Musketeers.
Hunter holding Justin Lewis as Lewis is trying to get to that block. Marquette loves to set those diagonal screens to get Lewis going to the box area. One of the things that was interesting in that last possession was Marquette went under the ball screen against Kolek. Again, Travis Steele told us wanted to make Kolek a scorer and not a passer.
Gives it up to Lewis with a hand in his face, no problem, and Lewis continues his hot shooting. He now has 16.
Good response after a big run from the Musketeers here for Marquette.
And Johnson rattles in a triple.
Again, we've talked about it. Johnson and Kunkel so important knocking down shots for Xavier.
That's his first made three of the game. Now Prosper rims out. Saved by Johnson. Johnson went 0 for 5 in the 1-point win against DePaul from distance earlier in the week. Scruggs somehow sifting his way through the defense and floating it in.
Doing a good job playing off 2 feet. Good little jump stop. When you play off 2 feet, you got options to pivot and find a kick out or a shot in that regard.
Largest lead of the game now for Xavier at 4 points. Remember, they trailed by 4 at the halftime break, and a little stop and start from Kolek off the window.
Starting to score a little bit, but some of that is by design with what Travis Steele wants to give up.
That's just beautiful team basketball there. Jones leaving it off for Fremantle. Morcell, a second a chance at the three-point play, rather. And he goes right to the cup and headed back to the free throw line.
Both teams starting to settle in a little bit. Much better flow here to start this second half offensively both ways. Daryl Morcell, between him and Lewis, so 2 of the stronger forwards you will see in the Big East Conference. And there's that strength able to go through the contact of Fremantle. That's a silly foul for his 3rd personal.
And so at least for now, Fremantle will stay in the ball game. What do you think about that?
I think it's fine. At this point, you sat him for the majority of the first half. You got to get something out of Fremantle and not have him on the bench the whole game. But if he's going to be on the floor, you got to get him touches on this end of the floor.
He's 3 of 6 with 6 points. Hunter coughs it up into the front court now for Greg Elliott, and it's a rejection from Fremantle, but a goaltending violation called, and the bucket will count for Marquette.
Well, Greg Elliott, usually known as a three-point shooter, gets 1 to go down. It's goaltended, but it'll count for 2. Good hustle from Fremantle, but nevertheless, the Golden Eagles up 1.
15:43 left in the ball game and a 1-point game. And Nick, we have seen a different Xavier team through the first 5 minutes of the second half.
I think Xavier's playing faster. Here's an example of it in the open floor. Kobe Jones through the contact, big time dunk and finish. I just don't think Xavier's waited around for Marquette to get that half-court defense set and loaded up, and it's paid off for him. Doing a good job cutting without the ball. Fremantle finding the heart of that defense and getting one to go down, but a nice start to this second half for Xavier offensively.
Made all 6 field goal attempts to start the second half, and they're 10 of their last 11. Dating back to the end of the first half, had that 10-2 run coming out of the halftime break. And there you get a look at Zach Fremantle coming back on the floor in spite of those 3 personal fouls. And at the moment, the only player on the floor for either team in foul trouble. It's been a cleanly played game for the most part defensively. And now some full court pressure from Marquette.
Now, Xavier's had success with a smaller lineup. Now you got your bigger lineup on the floor with Fremantle and Nunji. So it's time to go inside and beat Marquette up if you're Xavier. And if you're Marquette, you got to be ready to fight the post and battle.
Kobe Jones tracking down the offensive board. Gets it out to Fremantle. No. Nunji a third opportunity, and he's tangled up by Kirkweth.
Well, this is an area we talked about as a key to the game. Xavier is second in the Big East in rebounding. Marquette is last in the Big East in rebounding in terms of rebounding margin. And with this big lineup, that's one of the problems for Marquette. Nunji and Fremantle and Kobe Jones, the 3 best rebounders on the roster, on the floor at the same time. Marquette's got a gang rebound big time.
Haven't been a ton of second chance opportunities for either team. Just 3 offensive rebounds for Xavier, 2 for Marquette. Xavier, though, winning the rebounding battle as a whole, at least for now. They're +6. Nunji knocks down the second, and we're tied again at 48.
Well, now this is where on the other end, I think you can really go to Lewis and let him attack. Right now he's got Fremantle on him. Fremantle's in foul trouble, and it's a hard matchup for Fremantle with Lewis on the perimeter.
Morsell, Mitchell, Queth, Elliott, and Lewis on the floor for Marquette. A double team comes. Somehow Morsell gets out of it. 4 to shoot now for Lewis. Lewis heaves up a prayer, and it bounced out. Finally corralled by Paul Scruggs.
Really good defensive possession. Great trap with the ball screen. Blew everything up on that possession.
Good battle here. Jones and Morsell, and Jones silky with the step back jumper.
So Kobe Jones is attacking offensively in this half.
11 points now for Jones. Also has 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Done well defensively as well. Nunji a 3, and he buries it from the left side. And now the largest lead of the game for the Musketeers at 5.
This is where this lineup's dangerous, because although this is the big lineup, you can step out and shoot it a little.
How about Daryl Morsell from the top of the key? Another timely bucket from the Maryland transfer.
Talk about Kolik's passing being unlocked here. How about Morsell's offensive scoring punch being unlocked here at Marquette?
13 points now for Morsell. Good feed into Nunji. Left it off the rim. Morsell creating space, and the step back is pure. Tied at 53.
Just excellent rhythm and bounce, creating space for the mid-range jumper. And we're tied.
Again, back and forth we go in the second half. Lob up top, rejected by Elliott. Tippy-toeing the sideline, and he kept it alive, but then stepped out of bounds. Really good effort from Elliott, but instead it goes back to the Musketeers.
talk so important in ball screen situations. No communication between Queth and Morcell. Nunge knocks down a triple, and then there you go under a ball screen, and Morcell playing with a lot of confidence right now in his jump shot, shooting it at 39%. You go under a screen, he's going to tee one up and knock it down.
Second leading scorer this afternoon for Marquette. 15 points, one behind Justin Lewis. Adam Kunkel back on the floor now for Xavier. He'll try a three. And a good rebound there from Greg Elliott. He wants to push the pace. Morcell finds Elliott, and he knocks down a triple. They're all falling this afternoon for Marquette now, 9 of 20 from deep.
It's a great play from Morcell, though. Stopping, looking the opposite side of the floor, finding the hottest Golden Eagle the last month.
Really tough shot from Johnson, and the 8-0 run for the Golden Eagles continues. Elliott, last touched by the Musketeers and out of bounds.
Well, Darren Morcell getting a piece of that paint, being under control, looking to the opposite side of the floor. Watch Elliott raise up, get in his line of sight. This dude right here is hot for Marquette. And the Golden Eagles are up 3.
FS1 College Hoops, sponsored by Jeep. Jeep, there's only one. As we welcome you back inside Fiserv Forum, a 3-point game between the 20th ranked Xavier Musketeers and the hottest team in the Big East right now. The Marquette Golden Eagles have won 5 straight games, Nick, including 3 over top 25 teams.
Yeah, it's a simple game. Marquette's just done a much better job scoring the basketball and shooting it, and the defense has really risen up in that regard as well. I mean, it's just a flip of the script there with the 4-game losing streak and then the 5-game winning streak, and see where Marquette is tracking right now. And it's interesting, both teams had a hard time scoring a little bit in the first half. Both teams playing really well offensively in the second half. Both teams shooting over 60% from the floor.
And Marquette right now on an 8-0 run. They led by 4 at the halftime break, and immediately a timeout called as Oso Ighodaro went down. And he's a bit slow to get up, so Marquette will retain possession. When we come back, it's a 3-point lead for the Golden Eagles in Milwaukee. Welcome back to Marquette, a packed house for this rematch of a really good contest back in December. Quad 1 opportunity for both teams in this game today. Marquette already with 5 Quad 1 wins this season, the hottest team right now in the Big East. And Nick, you talked about it just a moment ago. The second half shooting has been remarkably better than we saw in the first.
Yeah, both ways. Marquette shooting 60% in this half. Xavier shooting 61% after both teams hovering around that 40% mark in the first half. So both teams have settled into this game on the offensive end of the floor.
8-0 run over the last 2.5 minutes for Marquette. Here's Cam Jones, and the one-hand scoop on the reverse goes down. And the freshman having a nice afternoon for Marquette.
That is a tough shot, because that is over Jack Nunge, who is a really good shot blocker and long.
Cam Jones now has 7 points off the bench. Nunge left open, and it rattles out. We saw a 10-2 run out of Xavier coming out of the halftime break. They've gone a bit cold, and immediately Jerome Hunter stops the bleeding.
Well, Marquette's ball screen defense and communication has eroded a little bit here. Some really good clean looks from Nunge and then Hunter, and Hunter makes it.
Step back 3 for Johnson, no. And tipped into the hands of Kolek. Good effort there defensively from Kunkel. It'll stay with Marquette.
And Jack Nunge is 7 feet tall. And watch Cam Jones do a good job. Never brings it over to another hand and is able to get it up off the window and knock it down. And again, communication so important, Matt. It's amazing how much talk can cover up for a lot of different things defensively. Slow on the communication. Hunter is able to slip out and knock down a triple.
And Hunter, a guy who, at least early in the year, really struggled from three, 25%. But he's been much better lately, Nick. He's scored in double figures in 2 of the last 4 games. Had a season-high 12 and a big win at rival Butler a week and a half ago.
Yeah, Hunter is a guy, not a great shooter, but he shot it decent at Indiana a year ago, about 34%. So he's a much better shooter than he's shown so far at Xavier.
Stevie Mitchell into the corner for Jones.
Cam Jones is playing with a lot of confidence right now. A couple of quick threes.
Scruggs now backing down the freshman Stevie Mitchell. Double team comes. Colby Jones, no. And a good tip out by Oso Ighodaro.
You said it. That's a good block out by Ighodaro, just putting a body on Freemantle, holding him off.
Lewis had a little hitch in that shot. Off the mark, foul on the floor. And I believe, based on the reaction of Paul Scruggs, it will go against the Musketeers.
It's a really good job by Dwan Odom on that pick and pop. You said Lewis had a little hitch in that shot. It's because Odom kind of bluffed at him and then was able to recover to Cam Jones in the corner. Broke Lewis's rhythm enough to probably cause him to miss the shot.
The foul did go against Scruggs. It's only his first and just the 3rd on the team in this half. Cam Jones bounced it off his foot back to the Musketeers.
Yeah, Cam Jones right now, he's played well. He's played with confidence. But there's always that line of maybe trying to do a little too much. A couple of quick threes, a turnover. You like the young fella's confidence, but you always got to combine that with a little bit of intelligence in terms of decision making.
Dwan Odom getting it out to Scruggs. Maintained his footing. Back inside to Jones. Great team basketball. Leads to 2 shots coming for Colby Jones.
Jones has done a really nice job cutting off of penetration. He's not a great 3-point shooter. He understands that. So instead of standing on the 3-point line, he's going to basket cut and get to the paint and then ultimately get to the free throw line.
He's 3 for 3 today and promptly misses the first. You talked about his toughness earlier in the game, Nick. You talked to Colby's older brother, CJ, who played college ball at Arkansas and Middle Tennessee State, and he'll tell you Colby got his toughness from playing against his older brothers in the backyard. Trent and CJ, he said they roughed him up a little bit, but he's better for it now at Xavier.
I'm not sure there's a guy on Xavier's roster that has a better understanding of exactly who he is as a player, his strengths, his weaknesses, how he can be successful, and he plays accordingly. Certainly helps to have some brotherly love, some brotherly tough love along the way.
I was that older brother with the tough love in my household.
Attaboy.
But, you know, he's also a tremendous rebounder. He's 4th in the Big East in rebounds. And Travis Steele says he's probably the best rebounding guard he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Good pick up there from Lewis. Numbers the other way. Morcell. Back to Lewis. Spinning through the defense and slicing to the basket. And Lewis leads all scorers with 18.
For Lewis, you don't want to see him settle too much for jump shots. I just want to see him have an attack mentality. Could have taken a 15-footer, instead gets a layup.
Now Jones had it picked away by Morcell. 3-on-2 again. The crowd really wanted that one to go down from Lewis.
And that's one. Keep running. If you're Justin Lewis, you were able to either have a 2-on-1 then, or he was going to be able to get all the way to the basket.
And another really nice drive from Odom. He hasn't necessarily lit up the stat sheet with points, Nick, but we've seen him time and again this afternoon get into the paint and create for others.
Well, Odom, in all reality, if he's not getting into the paint, it's hard to play him because he's not a great three-point shooter. I mean, what he's blessed with is his incredible athletic ability. And you got to use that athletic ability to drive, get a piece of the paint, make plays for others. And he has done that at a high level this afternoon.
So now 6 fouls on Marquette. Another turnover picked off by Cam Jones. Somehow scooping it off the window. What a move by the freshman Jones.
My goodness. You've seen 2 big-time finishes from Cam Jones here in this second half. Hey, this is big time. How about a little spin with the left hand off the window? Oh my goodness, Cam Jones. Take my breath away, young fella.
5-point lead for the Marquette Golden Eagles as we send you into the huddle with first-year head coach Shaka Smart.
The last 2 possessions, we've had great loads. Great loads. 5 guys defending is 1. Okay? High hand contest on shooters. Ready to guard the drive. Okay?
Matt, what he's talking about with loads is loading to the ball and sitting in those driving gaps. Be ready to poke that ball free or attack the driver. It is a good example of it. Watch Cam Jones as he's going to sit in that driving gap and then go get the ball. That's loading to the ball. And then you're able to take that ball, put a little English on it, and go finish it off the window. But it all starts with your defensive positioning on the front end. It's a good play from a young player in Cam Jones.
And you may have seen on that last shot of the bench a sign being held up that said 25 deflections. They track that every game, and the goal for Shaka Smart is 32. They've gotten 32 deflections or more in 3 of their last 5 games, all 5 of which they have won.
And I asked Shaka Smart about deflections, and he said, you know, obviously it's a defensive stat, but it impacts our offense. The more deflections we usually get, the more offense we get.
Kunkel off the mark, rebound Justin Lewis. Now, one thing to note as we get down the stretch here with 7.5 minutes to play, the next foul on Marquette will put Xavier into the bonus. And the free throw line is the place where they won the game against Marquette back in December. Turnover gives it back to the Musketeers.
Boy, if you're Marcel, just be patient and let Lewis get to his spot, posting up. You can even take a couple dribbles down to the baseline and throw a bounce pass in. You got to have patience with post passing.
Xavier 1 for its last 9 from the floor. Nick, what do you want to see out of the Musketeers?
Well, I still think you got to get the 2 frontline guys going. You got to get Fremantle and Nungi touches and get them involved.
Here's Scruggs on the drive.
Good job. Yeah.
Good step through, could not finish. We have seen a number of those little bunnies right around the rim just not fall today for Xavier. Stevie Mitchell off the mark with the floater. And then tapped out of bounds by Paul Scruggs. Great composure there by the freshman Stevie Mitchell to keep it alive.
Right now, you get Kolek back on the floor. Just did it. It's interesting. You just feel the offense is not as fluid when Kolek isn't on the court. That cat right there just is the catalyst for everything that Marquette does. He may not get the assist, but he certainly will get the party started with his penetration and then skipping it opposite, hitting the roll man. See if he can get Marquette in a better groove in the half court.
10 on the timer for Marquette. Kolek with the ball. Lewis with 3. Lewis just gets it up to beat the buzzer and rolls it in. 20 points for Justin Lewis.
And a good job by Kolek to attract a little bit of help and dish it out to Lewis. And Lewis, once again, doesn't settle, and he gets 2.
Paul Scruggs promptly responds just as Marquette had expanded to their largest lead of the half.
Tell you what, Matt, you let Paul Scruggs get to his left hand with a head of steam. Good luck.
Scruggs this afternoon, 13 points, 7 assists, a steal and a block. Good team basketball there from Marquette, and Iguodaro, the beneficiary.
It's the second time Xavier's gone zone, and each time Marquette has gotten a shot right at the rim. And see if that'll spook Travis Steele out of that zone, or if he wants to stick back with it, because zone was actually pretty good for the Musketeers in the first matchup against Marquette.
Colby Jones, offensive rebound, and a step back, rims out.
Xavier back man-to-man.
Kolek finding Lewis. Tipped around and back to the Musketeers. Well, I think that stat says it all. And Nick, you've talked about it time and again throughout the course of the game. Just the near misses 3 feet around the basket for Xavier this afternoon.
And some good clean looks from 3, too, that haven't gone down as well.
They trail by 7. Nunji tries a 3. Offensive board for Fremantle. Put back won't go, but at least he draws a foul and heads to the free throw line. Fremantle has yet to score in this half.
And certainly, that in and of itself could explain the 7-point deficit right now. You need your top guns to be firing on all cylinders on the road, and foul trouble derailed Fremantle's first half a little bit, and you see it so often that it's just hard to get into a rhythm if you sit on the bench for a lot of that first half. But need a big finish from both Fremantle and Nunji down the stretch here if you're Xavier.
Picked up 2 quick ones in the first half, sat most of that first half. And he's been playing with 3 fouls pretty much since the beginning of half number 2. 6-point lead for the Golden Eagles. Kolek leaving it off for Iguodaro, spinning out of trouble and dunking it home.
But what a great in-traffic gathering of a loose ball by Iguodaro.
He's had a couple of really nice baskets now in the last few minutes. Kunkel comes away with it, hanging, tipped in and out. Nunji fighting for the board, and finally knocked out of bounds by Morcell. It'll go back to the Musketeers.
Well, Tyler Kolek doing what he does, attracting attention, dropping it off, but Iguodaro, that's a 50-50 ball. 2 Musketeers, 1 Golden Eagle, and Iguodaro scoops it up and lays it in.
PBA season, our continuing coverage from the PBA Players Championship. The headliner of our 4 hours worth of live coverage, that man, former Player of the Year, Sean Rash. We'll see you next after Hoops.
Largest lead of the second half for the Marquette Golden Eagles, on top by 8. 3:48 left to play. Inching closer and closer to another top 20 victory. They already had 3 in their last 5 games. And Nick, we talked about it. It's a quad 1 opportunity for both teams as you look at their tournament resumes right now. Both teams projected by our Mike DeCourcy to be in the NCAA tournament field. 5 quad 1 wins for Marquette,
which is impressive. And, you know, I always say this, it's getting to that time of the year where we're going to talk about the bubble and those kinds of things and who's in and who's out. But, yeah, everybody's usually got a reason to be left out of the tournament. What's your most convincing reason to be put into the tournament? And how about 5 quad 1 wins.
Pretty good.
As of right now, we're not even into February yet, and that's a good number to see. Trying to get another one here today.
Those 5 quad 1 wins ties Marquette for the 3rd most in the country, with teams like Alabama, Auburn, Kansas, Iowa State. They are in elite company right now for a team that was picked 9th in the Big East preseason poll. Whistle on the last drive from Adam Kunkel, and now he's headed to the free throw line.
Tell you what, Kunkel's got a little more game than just being a little catch and shoot guy. You know what I mean? He's shown it here today with a couple drives to the basket. That's going through traffic, getting one up off the rim and getting a foul. And yeah, keep in mind, Xavier was just in a spot similar to this. Trailed by 5 points with about 5 minutes to go on the road at DePaul and found a way to win. And so you can draw back on those kinds of experiences, and that can allow you to stay confident and composed in the moment.
Nunji scored the final 6 points of the game for Xavier to come away with that 1-point win against DePaul. Musketeers now trailing by 6. 3:28 left. Kolek on the drive. Good rejection from Johnson, kept in by Kunkel.
Excellent defensive possession.
And now the 5th-year senior, Paul Scruggs.
That is a tough shot, Matt. Don't need it. Much rather see Paul Scruggs try to get to the rim.
Now the ball into the hands of Cam Jones. Freshman has had a big day, 9 points. Kolek kicks it out to Morsell. Tipped out of bounds, and the last touched by Marquette. Well, so many of these meetings, especially in recent years, oh so close. 5 out of the last 7 meetings between Xavier and Marquette decided by just an average of 5.5 points. 6-point game, 2.5 left. Xavier in the bonus. Scruggs defended by Morsell. Zips it out to Johnson. Ball on the deck and scooped away by Cam Jones.
Another loose ball going Marquette's way. It's a heck of a pass from Scruggs, though, on the skip to Johnson. It's a pretty good look.
And the 3-point shooting just hasn't been there this afternoon for Xavier. They're now 6 of 23 from beyond the arc. And an offensive foul drawn by Nate Johnson. Hanging in there on the defensive end.
Yeah, Johnson blocked a shot at the rim on the previous possession. And another way to defend the rim is to set your feet and take a charge. Job outside the restricted area. Sets his feet, takes the charge.
Timeout taken by Xavier. They have 2 left. They're in the bonus, and they trail by 6. Less than 2 to play on this Big East Sunday showdown. 6-point lead for the Marquette Golden Eagles. 68-62, 1:54 left. An opportunity to take down yet another top 20 opponent. They already have 3 top 25 wins in their last 5. They have won 5 in a row, their longest Big East winning streak since the 2017-18 season. As you get a shot there of Shaka Smart's huddle, everybody dialed in. Matt Schumacher and Nick Baugh with you. On the other side, Nick, Xavier desperate for a bucket. What are you running here out of the timeout if you're Travis Steele?
It's hard because usually you like to have a top gun. You know, Marquette knows they're going to Justin Lewis in big spots. Xavier's got a lot of options, which is good, but it also can make decision-making late kind of difficult as a coach. I still think, you know, Nunji and Fremantle haven't really had their best stuff today. I like Paul Scruggs getting to that left hand, trying to get downhill, trying to make something happen for Xavier.
He has led the team in scoring this afternoon with 13 points. Colby Jones, though, and Adam Kunkel have both had nice games as well. each with 12 points. Xavier in the bonus, so a foul on this defensive possession by Marquette will send the Musketeers to the free throw line.
And keep in mind, Xavier's got 3 team fouls, so they can get really aggressive defensively here.
Here's Johnson hanging at the rim, no, into the hands of Justin Lewis. Another big-time defensive rebound, and Lewis now has a double-double, 20 points and 11 rebounds. What a game and what a season so far for the second-year superstars. You take a look at the Big East standings, and another win for Marquette would jolt them into the top 3. And again, as we talked about, Nick, this is a team that was picked 9th in the preseason poll.
Incredible what that guy right there has been able to do. Get the group to buy in, come together, and it seems like every week Marquette just takes a big step forward. Still got 90 seconds to seal the deal here. And get aggressive if you're Xavier. Don't want to get crazy, but got a couple fouls to give.
Morcell defended by Johnson. Morcell, a tough take. Grown man finish on the baseline drive.
And you can flex when you finish like that.
Then he mixes it up on the defensive end, and he's whistled for the foul. He wanted a tie-up, and instead Xavier will head to the free throw line.
You get everybody lifted up the floor. You got that baseline vacant, and Morcell's just so strong, going through the body of Nate Johnson. How about a guy that's a grown man making a grown man play in a big spot?
So 2 shots for Paul Scruggs. Everybody thought it was a 1-and-1. First one rimmed out. They'll reset for the second. 4 misses now at the free throw line this afternoon for Xavier in a tight ball game. They trail by 8. And Scruggs missed them both. When do you start to think about fouling if you're Xavier?
Well, you got some fouls to give, so you might as well start to get aggressive and go after the ball here. You don't got time to let 30 seconds come off the clock.
There was a foul called at midcourt. Colby Jones thought he had a clean swipe at the basketball. Team's 5th foul. So 2 more to give until they get into the bonus. That being Marquette. 55.9 left. And 2 timeouts for Xavier. A comeback not out of the question just yet for a Musketeer team that can fill it up quickly. But today they have struggled against a stout defensive performance by Marquette.
Dangerous pass.
Very. And now Marquette playing keep away. Zip down to Cam Jones. Got to think about going now if you're Marquette. 5 on the timer. Jones from way downtown. Are you kidding me? Cam Jones. Double figures for the freshman. Wow.
Incredible. It has been Cam Jones' day. Been aggressive, been in a good flow. Had to get one up from downtown, and he buries it. What a big shot from a freshman who has been on his game all game.
One of the interesting things that Shaka Smart has said about Cam Jones, he is the furthest along of the freshmen in terms of understanding what he can do on the floor. And Shaka said, listen, 90% or more of freshmen have a little bit of self-doubt. Not Cam Jones. He just attacks all the time. He has 12 points now. None bigger than that 3 that might have just clinched it for Marquette. As you take a look at the game summary, the 3-point field goals just continue to reign in. 64 made threes now, Nick, over the last 6 games.
And that's been a huge part of the surge. As basketball's not a complicated game. Got to make shots, and Marquette has shot the ball well, but I also think that ties in with the team assist numbers that you've seen as well. done a nice job sharing the ball. Usually when you share it, you shoot it at a higher percentage.
One timeout left for Marquette, none for Xavier. They have fouls to give, and the crowd can start to sense it again at Fiserv Forum. That winning feeling. They've already won 5 in a row, and they're staring down another win over a top 20 opponent. And cheers of Shaka ringing throughout the stadium in Milwaukee. What a stretch for this first-year head coach and his team that has 9 new scholarship players. And Nick, still plenty more opportunities for this team to pick up resume-building wins. This one today, though, will give them their 6th Quad 1 victory.
You know, and we talked about it. You know, basketball is a chemistry and confidence sport. And both those things are oozing out of Marquette right now. The chemistry's there, the confidence is there. 5-game winning streak, looking to make it 6. And you got a lot of opportunities for some more resume boosting wins if you're Marquette.
Meanwhile, Xavier will have another game against a Quad 1 type opponent on Wednesday, taking on the 21st ranked Providence Friars, who just picked up a win over Butler, improving to 12-0 at home. And this is the best start for Providence since the 70s. So that'll be a huge showdown in Cincinnati next week for Xavier. Final 20 ticks left. Colby Jones threading it down to Johnson, and that has encapsulated the entire afternoon for Xavier. Tough shots around the rim, and Nick, look at this crowd. Marquette extends the win streak to 6 straight, including 4 over top 20 teams.
The hottest team in the Big East remains hot, doing all the things that they need to defensively, offensively, sharing the ball, knocking down shots. What a game for Marquette.
Their 6th Quad 1 win, the NCAA tournament in their sights for the Golden Eagles. Final score, Marquette 75, Xavier 64.